Hello, Namaskar and Adab to all my friends from your friend astrologer and guide Irfan. Once more with you from your very own channel Astro Assurance. The last video that I uploaded and I posted for everyone was a video on Nakshatra and how it affects our personalities and how does it derive various results in our lives. The topic for today that I've chosen is in light of how does your horoscope affect your personality and what results it brings in our lives, and how can you see your own horoscope. For instance, many times we need the help of experts to reach out to them to analyze a horoscope from various perspectives, especially when an important decision we are about to take and we are not very sure in which direction the decision can go. So it's obvious that we do want to reach out to an expert and consult an expert. That is understandable. However, to a large extent, we should be able to see what personality does a horoscope give us. What are the various yogas and doshas and how they make us the person who we are. How does our individuality and our personality shine or showcase itself through the various attributes of the horoscope, whether it is the ascendant, whether it's a moon sign, or whether it is the various strengths of the planets and or the Ashtakvarga points, or how strong our Navmansh is, and also what various Raja Yoga combinations give us as our strengths and our ability to perform, and what competencies they give us. So I want to throw light and also dispel some of the doubts that you have, and also give you a perspective which is very strong to look at, to analyze your own horoscopes, and dispelling some of the doubts that has been raised in our minds, whether it is through the Parashar system or the Gemini system. Now firstly, I want to talk to you about the way a horoscope is analyzed. How do we analyze a horoscope? The Indian Vedic approach or the Vedic approach to seeing a horoscope is we check which is the sign which is rising in the eastern horizon at the time of the birth of a child. So if the child is born at 12 o'clock 54 minutes in the afternoon, then we look at that particular moment at 12 o'clock 12:54 in the afternoon, which is the sign which is rising on the eastern horizon, and that becomes the ascendant or the ruling ascendant or the first house of the native or the child. And from then on, all the others fall in place. So if the first house is, for example, Leo, then the second house obviously becomes Virgo, then the third becomes Libra, then the fourth becomes Scorpio, and so on. And basis that, if the first house is a certain sign, then by virtue of planets placed in different signs, they occupy different houses. So for a Leo ascendant native, if he has moon say in Sagittarius, then Sagittarius from Leo or the first sign is 5 signs away. So we have Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio and Sagittarius. So 5th sign. And if the first house sign is Leo, then the 5th house sign is Sagittarius. So moon, if it is in Sagittarius, then for a Leo ascendant native, moon is in the 5th house. So that's how we see the results, and we see how all the planets showcase their results or demonstrate their capabilities. But there is a technical approach to seeing how to identify the right ascendant. Now for example, we are not born exactly on 0 degrees of the start of a sign. For example, every child may not be born on 0 degrees Aries or 1st degrees of Aries or 1st degree of Taurus or 1st degree of Gemini, because a child may be born when a sign has already crossed 15 degrees or 20 degrees on the eastern horizon. So at 6 o'clock in the morning, if it is Cancer sign and the Cancer sign has already progressed say 26 degrees, then and the child is born at that particular moment at 6 o'clock when Cancer has already progressed 26 degrees, then the Cancer sign at 26 degrees means the first house has only 4 degrees left of Cancer sign. So while you may look at the child being born in the Cancer sign, because Cancer was rising, but Cancer is at 26 degrees, only 4 degrees of Cancer are remaining for the first house. So when you make the first house, it should be made in such a manner that the only very small part or the starting part of the first house is Cancer, or 4 degrees of Cancer, and rest of the 26 degrees are occupied Leo, because that is the right way of creating a horoscope. Because if you don't look at it and we want to put one sign in a house, then the challenge is, how do we put it? Do we take entire sign in one house, or we take a division? I prefer that when I get a horoscope made, I look at how much part of the first house is a sign occupying, and how much the rest of the part is being occupied by what sign. So in this case that I am talking about, 26 degrees of Cancer means only 4 degrees are left. So the first house will have 4 degrees of Cancer and 26 degrees of Leo. The ascendant will be chiefly and mainly ruled by the Leo sign and not by Cancer. But if we assume and we take the Cancer sign as the ascendant, because 26 degrees of Cancer, without realizing that only 4 degrees of Cancer are remaining, and the entire house, the first house, has 30 degrees. So if 4 degrees of a house or the first house are occupied by Cancer, the rest of 26 degrees will be occupied by Leo. Then the second house will have the last 4 degrees of Leo and the first 26 degrees of Go, and so on. That's how a horoscope should be made. However, we don't look at it that way. We take an ascendant and we take the entire sign in Vedic astrology as that house. So there challenges lie. So specifically because there are no boundaries between houses. It is not that if a child is born on 26th degree of Cancer, he is in that particular room and there is a door between the two rooms, between the first house and the second house, or a boundary wall. There are no boundary walls in space. So space is like a suite that you are living in, a modular kitchen which is attached to the living room. If there were walls and the doors were closed, so the aroma in the kitchen more or less will be left in the kitchen and it will not spread to the house. But if it's a modular kitchen and the kitchen is almost a part of the living room, then almost 90% of the aroma which is in the kitchen will also be felt in the living room because there are no walls. Similarly, if the sign is Cancer, the first part in the first house, and only 4 degrees of Cancer are left to be a part of the first house, and 26 degrees of Leo are there, that means the first house should have more attributes or more strength of Leo rather than that of Cancer. So you need to look into that aspect when you look at a horoscope, and not assume when you use an app, that app will put one first house into one sign based on smallest part of an ascendant that is there for rising sign. The horoscope app will take it as the first house. The entire house will be taken as that house, that sign. That is not the right way. Second part is to see where is the moon sign. So for example, if Cancer is at 26 degrees and if moon is in Sagittarius, now Sagittarius is 6th from Cancer, right? Cancer, and then we have Leo, then Virgo, then Libra, then Scorpio, and then Sagittarius, the 6th sign. So if the first house is Cancer, then the 6th house is Sagittarius because it is the 6th sign from Cancer. However, we just spoke that only the first 4 degrees of the first house are Cancer. If the moon is beyond the 26th degree of Sagittarius, only then will it go into the 6th house. If it's within the first 1 to 20 degrees in Sagittarius, it will be more or less in the 5th house rather than in the 6th house. So we need to look at that differentiation. Why? Because moon is the Lagna Lord. So the placement of the Lagna Lord in either a trine house or a Dusthana, as in this case, has a sea of difference in results and how results will be worked out. So if you put the Lagna Lord in the 6th house, it has a very different manifestations than putting the Lagna Lord in the 5th house, which is the trine house. Very sea of difference can come about. Similarly, if the Lagna Lord is put instead of in the 4th house in the Kendra, but in the 3rd house again, which is the Upacha house also, a sea of difference can come about. And then between 8th house and the 9th house. If the Lagna Lord goes into the 8th rather than the 9th, because of the very minute differentiation you make, it's a very, very different result which may come about. And also between the 12th house and the 1st house. The 1st house is the Lagna itself. 12th house is the loss of the Lagna. So a planet placed in the 1st house in the Lagna is an extremely powerful placement. But because of a small differentiation in how the Lagna or the 1st house is calculated, if the planet goes into the 12th house, the prediction and the analysis goes berserk. So please note how the planetary placements are seen, to what extent it is. Secondly, based on how many degrees the planet is placed within a house, whether it is at the end, for example, the example that I gave, 26 degrees of Cancer, and if a planet is placed in 27th degree or 26th degree of Cancer, that means it is right on the cusp in the Lagna, in the 1st house. It is almost between the 12th house and the 1st house. And as I said, there are very less boundaries between the 12th house and the 1st house. So the planet is in the 1st house at 1 degree in Aries, means that to a large extent the planet will have the strength of the Lagna. However, because it is just 1 degree away from the 12th house, the 12th house effects will also have a bearing on the personality of the native. If you don't take into account, and if you see that the planet is in the Lagna, it is very, very strong, then there will definitely be a challenge. This is more so when the planet can be either exalted or in a very bad situation. For example, Mars in Capricorn is very different from Mars in Aquarius. So based on how Mars is placed, whether it is exalted or not, and what degrees, and within the center of the house or not, it will play a lot of and the results will be played out. So Mars, which is exalted in the 12th house, is different from Mars exalted in the 1st house, and that differentiation has to be made out. Why? Because Mars is also the ruler of the 1st house in the Kalpurush Lagna. So if Mars is in the Lagna in Capricorn, then Mars acquires a lot of strength in the 1st house, because it is also the natural ruler of the Kalpurush Lagna. So keep that in mind when you work out results. And as we also talked about the moon sign, the moon, not only the sign, moon sign is obviously the sign where the moon is placed in, whether in the 1st degree or the 29th or the 30th degree, the moon sign is worked out. However, what house the moon is very, very important. The other part is the Navmansh, because when you make 9 divisions of a sign, then you calculate the Navmansh, and in which sign it goes in the Navmansh and which house it goes. So for example, if a planet is born in the Aries Lagna, if Aries is the rising sign, and say Mars is at 1 degree in Aries, then Mars is very powerful. But Mars at 2 degrees in Aries, Mars goes into Taurus. So the whole approach of the person is slightly now changed from a purpose of life and fighting for values, fighting for something which is more concrete, which is principle driven, which is value driven, to a shift towards more materialism, because Mars has gone into the second pada of, or the second part of Aries. If Aries is divided into 9 parts, then the first part obviously is Aries, the second part is Taurus, third part is Gemini, and so on. So when Mars goes into the second part of Aries, when you make 9 divisions, the second part is Taurus. So in the Navmansh, it will be seen in the Taurus sign. In the Lagna, it will be seen in the 1st sign, in the 1st house. But if it is at 3 degrees 20 seconds or 20 minutes or more, say between 3 degrees 20 minutes to 6 degrees 40 minutes, if it's between that, say it is at 5 degrees, then Mars will be seen in Taurus in the Navmansh. It will not be seen in Aries sign. So that is a very different thing. And if Mars goes into, say for example, the 18th or 19th degree, because the first, not 18th or 19th, say it goes into the 12th degree, then Mars ends into Cancer sign, or the Cancer Navamsa in the Navmansh, because the first 3 parts of the sign are 3 degrees 20 minutes each. So 3 degrees 20 minutes for first 3 means the first 3 padas or the first 3 navamsas are 10 degrees. So the moment Mars goes between 10 to 13 degrees or 20 minutes, say 11 degrees or 12 degrees, then it lands in the Cancer Navamsa. That means in the Navmash it will be seen debilitated, because Mars gets debilitated in Cancer. So this also has to be noted, because the strength of the planet changes from one to the other. So if the certain house is not calculated well, Mars may land in the Cancer Navamsa, in the Navmash, but even the house may instead of coming in the trine, it may be seen in the Dusthana, which means it loses a lot of its strength and its prediction will be different. However, Mars, if it's seen debilitated in the Navamsha, but it is seen in the Lagna, or it is seen in the trine house or in the Kendra, then it retains some of the strength. Especially if Mars lands in the 10th house in Cancer, in the Navmash, it will be seen as debilitation sign. However, because it is in the 10th house, a lot of directional strength is also seen. So these have to be looked into when the final divisions of the Navmash are made, based on what ascendant you are starting off with. So what ascendant you are starting off with and how you divide the houses is very important. The other part, what you need to check out in the horoscope is, what are the strengths of the planets? Are they placed in the strong sign, their own signs, their more trikona signs or exaltation signs, and what degrees? Especially when you calculate the exaltation part, you need to be very, very careful, because 1 degree either side, the planet may or may not be exalted. So that is very, very important. The other thing is, many times we look at how the planet is getting weak or strengthened by Raj Yogas or conjunctions. Now some conjunctions are being called the Raj Yoga, some conjunctions are strong but they may not be a Raj Yoga, for example. So when you look at certain conjunctions and the strength of the conjunction, especially if a Raj Yoga is formed, then you need to look at whether there are enough Raj Yogas in the horoscope to make it strong. For example, a Gajakesari Yoga is supposed to be very, very strong. However, which house the Gajakesari Yoga lands is very important, and which sign. For example, a Gajakesari Yoga for Aries ascendant native, the yoga being formed in the 4th house, which is in Cancer, is very strong, because Jupiter gets exalted in Cancer, Moon gets a lot of strength in Cancer, its own sign, and Moon also naturally rules the 4th house. So a very strong Gajakesari Yoga. However, if the Gajakesari Yoga lands in Capricorn, where Jupiter is debilitated and Moon loses a lot of its strength because it is the sign of Saturn, then that's an extremely weak Gajakesari Yoga. And on top of it, if in Capricorn the Gajakesari Yoga is formed in the 8th house, what does that mean? Which means that if it's a Gemini ascendant native, the 8th house is Capricorn, and 8th house means 8th house is also related to Scorpio. Scorpio is the 8th sign. So Moon in the 8th house, even in Capricorn, first of all loses its strength because it is Saturn sign, but because it's 8th house and the natural sign or the natural house of Scorpio, it loses its strength further. Moon is very, very weak in the 8th house and Jupiter is debilitated. So instead of good results, such a Gajakesari Yoga may give you harmful results, more negative results, more challenging results. So it is wrong to get excited by seeing a Gajakesari Yoga in the horoscope. One needs to look at the strength of the Gajakesari Yoga, one needs to look at what house it is in, also look at what sign it is in. The other part is how strong and tight the conjunction is. If the difference between Jupiter and Moon is within a few degrees, then the Gajakesari Yoga is strong. However, if the difference between the degrees of strength of Jupiter or Moon is more than 10 degrees, then it's a very, very weak conjunction. It is a very, very weak yoga. And if the difference between the two is say 15 degrees, then it is an extremely poor Gajakesari Yoga. Sometimes the difference between Jupiter and Moon may be seen as 1 degree, but they may be seen in different houses. For example, if Moon is seen as 29 degrees in Gemini and Jupiter is seen at 3 degrees in Cancer, and according to the way horoscopes are designed, 3rd house is Gemini and 4th house has Cancer, it will be seen as if moon is in the 3rd house and Jupiter is in the 4th house, and there is no Gajakesari yoga. However, because there are no walls in space, 29th degree of Gemini and 3rd or 4th degree of Cancer means there is a difference of just 5 degrees. It is a very, very strong Gajakesari yoga, and that Gajakesari yoga has to be taken account of, rather than thinking that moon is in the 3rd house and Jupiter is in the 4th house. There is no Gajakesari yoga. This is important. Keep in mind that there are no walls between 1st house or 2nd house or 3rd house or 4th house in space. Planets are able to influence each other very, very strong, and that's why the aspects also strong. If each of the houses were demarcated by walls, then the aspects may not work. The 4th aspect of Mars would be that Mars has to go through 4 walls to reach the 4th aspect. That's not how it is. So one has to look into it. The other part, how to see the strength of a Raja Yoga, is to see, are there any malefic aspects on it. So for example, Jupiter in Cancer and Moon in Cancer in the 4th house for an Aries ascendant, as I said, is very strong Gajakesari yoga. And if both difference is not less than 4 degrees, then there is a very tight conjunction, very strong Gajakesari yoga. However, just imagine this. Saturn is in the 2nd house in Taurus. So Saturn is aspecting the Gajakesari yoga, Jupiter and Moon with its 3rd aspect. Then place Ketu in the 12th house in Pisces. Ketu is also aspecting the Gajakesari yoga or Jupiter and Moon with its 5th aspect. And then place another malefic, say for example Mars, in the Lagna itself, and it is aspecting Cancer, its debilitation sign, with its 4th aspect. Now 3 malefics aspecting the Gajakesari yoga. Very, very powerful Gajakesari yoga, but 3 malefics aspecting it. Do you really take it for granted that it will still give you wonderful, great results? It will not. It will not give you great results. So these things have to be looked at. The other thing is, what you need to look at is how strong is the aspect itself. So for example, if both Jupiter and Moon are at 4 and 5 degrees in Cancer in the 4th house, and if Saturn is in Taurus in the 2nd house, it is aspecting Jupiter and Moon. But for an aspect to be very, very strong, it has to be a tight aspect. That means Saturn itself should be in the range of 4 to 5 or 6 degrees, the closest in degrees, to have a tight aspect. If Jupiter and Moon are at 4 and 5 degrees in Cancer, but Saturn is at 25 degrees in Taurus, then it is not aspecting Jupiter and Moon strongly with its 3rd aspect. It has almost lost its aspect because it is too further away into its degrees, into its strength, and the 3rd aspect hardly makes any difference. Similarly, Mars in the 1st house also has to be around 4, 5 or 6 or 7 degrees to be able to aspect strongly Jupiter and Moon or the Gajakesari yoga. Similarly, Ketu also has to be at 4, 5 or 6 or 7 degrees to be able to aspect the Gajakesari yoga with its 5th aspect. If that is not taken into account, the aspect being taken into account in spite of the huge difference in degrees is a wrong method. The approach itself is wrong. So many astrologers don't look into these small, minute details, and they just go around taking the Lagna as the entire sign as the Lagna, putting one planet entirely in one house and taking it as strong. Moon in Cancer is strong, but if Moon is at 29th degree in Cancer and the ascendant is 15 degrees, Moon is almost in Leo sign and maybe in the 5th house rather than in the 4th house, then that has to be taken into account. Then apart from this one Raja Yoga being weak, even if it's very, very strong, many times people say I have a very strong Gajakesari yoga, it is in the 4th house, aspects are also not very strong on it, no negative aspect, but I am not getting the results. Because maybe there are 3 or 4 negative aspects on the Lagna itself. There are 3 or 4 very, very challenging or doshas. For example, while you have Gajakesari yoga, you may have a Shrapit dosh with a Rahu and a Saturn conjunction, along with maybe Sun also. So Sun is eclipsed by Rahu, Saturn is eclipsed, and say for example Mercury is debilitated. So overall strength of the Raja Yoga has to be seen, and very less other negative aspects, not only on the yoga but other important planets. The Sun should not be debilitated, the Lagna should be very, very strong, the Lagna Lord should be not placed badly. Only then does a Raj Yoga really fructify results. Secondly, one Raj Yoga is not enough. If you are going into a battle, just going with one ammunition or with one type of weapon is not enough. You need a multitude of weapons, so you need a multitude of strengths. So you need 3 to 4 Raj Yogas. If you see the most successful people in the world, especially where people have achieved overall success in business, in arts, in being a celebrity, they usually have 4 to 5 very, very strong Raj Yogas, and especially Raj Yogas of planets which are the benefic planets, then they do very, very well. So Raj Yoga where you have like a Gachakesari Yoga is very, very strong Raj Yoga, or a Raj Yoga which has Venus or Moon especially in very, very strong placements, or the Chandra Mangal Yoga are very, very strong Raj Yogas, or the Panch Mahapurush Yoga, especially Panch Mahapurush Yogas of either Venus or Mercury are very good for material success. The Bhadra Yoga, for example, the Malavya Yoga are very, very good yogas, whereas the Sasha Yoga or the Ruchak Yoga, which are formed by Saturn and Mars, are also important and they give you good success. But more than material success, they may give you success in getting influence and power rather than material success. So that is important to be seen. So multiple yogas, very few negative aspects is important. The other part is not to have the doshas, not to have bad doshas. So for example, one should not have the Vish Yoga, which is formed between the conjunction of Saturn and Moon in a close conjunction, or the Shrapit dosha between Saturn and Rahu, and also not to have 2 or 3 multiple doshas in the Lagna or aspecting the Lagna. For example, Saturn, Rahu and Moon, all three in a Shrapit dosha and Vish Yoga in the Lagna are extremely bad placements, very, very bad placements. If such a dosha is formed and the major part or the more important dashas or the main periods are of these planets, then there is a bigger challenge. For example, if you have a Guru Chandal Yoga between Jupiter and Rahu, at the same time you have a debilitated, for example, Mars, then you will have 3 dashas, Mars and then Rahu and Jupiter, one after the other. And if these come in your middle years from say 15th, 16th year of your life till say 50th year of your life, then your entire life is gone, or the main dashas are gone in debilitated Mars dasha, then Guru Chandal Yoga with Rahu dasha and the Jupiter following one after the other, 18 years and close to 16, 17 years of Jupiter. So that is a very, very big challenging part. So it's better that such a dosha doesn't exist, and doesn't exist especially related to the trine houses or related to the Lagna, because then it becomes very, very challenging results to the native. The other part is the nakshatra in which the moon is placed. If the nakshatra of moon is either the more challenging nakshatras like Ardra nakshatra or the Vishaka or the Jyeshtha or the Ashlesha or the Mula, then definitely very, very challenging results come for the native. And if these are coupled with a moon in a Vish Yoga with Saturn, or a Guru Chandal Yoga also in the horoscope, and other 2 or 3 bad placement with a debilitated Mercury also, for example, then extremely challenging and troublesome results can be predicted for such a native. So a horoscope should be devoid of all these challenges for good results to come about. Then the other part is that where more Raj Yogas are there and tight conjunction and less negative aspects are there, and the trine and the Kendra houses are strong. The benefic planets, what are the benefic planets? Jupiter, Moon, Venus and Mercury. These are the benefic planets. These should be in good placements, good aspects, and not in any bad conjunctions or in combustion. So if for example Venus and Mercury are placed in the 8th house or the 6th house or the 12th house, especially with a Saturn or a Rahu, then there is definitely a challenge, or even with Ketu, then definitely there is a big challenge to the native. So the benefics should be devoid of any bad placements, bad dosha, not in the dusthanas, and the Lagna Lord on top of it all, the Lagna Lord should be very well placed and strong. If not, then the challenging results will surely come about. So these are some of the things that you need to look at in the horoscope to see an overall personality and characteristic. The other thing we need to look at is, if you need to define the results of career, for example, or health, then we need to look at the karakas, how strong the karakas are. So for example, for material benefits, especially related to money or for children, Jupiter has to be strong. So when you're predicting results, check how strong Jupiter is, what its placement is, when its dasha is coming, and then also check the fifth lord or the condition of the fifth house for children, and also check Venus's placement when you're checking material benefits. Check the second lord, because the second house is the house of earnings, and how there are no negative placements in the second house, and the second lord is strong. Apart from Jupiter and Venus being strong, then only material benefits can come about. So check out what the karaka is. If you want political success, then Sun obviously has to be very, very strong. If you need to have, if you need to be very, very strong in the corporate world, then you need to have strong Mars, strong Saturn, and especially in IT, you need to also have a strong Rahu, for example. So the karakas need to be checked out. For romantic life, for relationships, this condition of the seventh house, the condition of the seventh lord, and Venus extremely important. And for women, Jupiter is become very important, because that is the karaka of husband and for children for women. So Jupiter is one of the most important planets for women. So the karakas need to also be checked out. The dasha periods need to be checked out. The doshas and the rajyogs have to be checked out. Aspects on these have to be checked out. Condition of benefits need to be checked out. Calculation of houses versus the lagna have to be checked out. All these have to be checked out before you can arrive at whether the horoscope is strong or not strong. Then last but not the least, the Ashtak Varga points have to be looked at, because the Ashtak Varga point will tell you how strong a planet's placement is and whether the planet can give you good results or bad results in its dasha. So friends, this is my analysis for how a horoscope need to be looked at and how it should be read, and how the results should be attributed, or probable results should be worked out basis all these points. I hope you understand this and you use it, because most of the videos that are there on various websites, including this website, give results basis the traditional methods, and all these things are generally avoided. I wanted to make a more holistic video on all the aspects or all the attributes which combine to give a good horoscope, and I've tried to bring all of them together. If I have missed out on something, please write down in the below this video, so that I can cover those points also as part of horoscope analysis later. And please like this video, please share this video, and please press the bell icon so that you get to know when my new video is coming. And if you're looking for a consultation from me, please reach out to me at the links given below. And till we meet some other time, this is your friend, astrologer and guide Irfan, signing off. Ciao.